controlled hallucination.
These electrical signals, they don't have colours, they don't have shapes. They're indirectly related to what's out there. The brain has to combine these ambiguous sensory signals with some sort of prior expectation about what's going on and come up with a kind of best guess about what's out there that is balancing its prior expectation and these sensory signals. In this view, what we experience are the predictions that come largely from the inside out or the top down. So we actively construct the worlds that we experience. So a very simple example is looking at a mug. I see its color, it has a certain appearance of solidity and three-dimensional extension. Now, some of these things, in my experience, are more constructed than others. Color, I think, is a good example of something that is more mind-dependent. The mug doesn't have a color itself. It has ways of reflecting light that my brain reinterpret as color. Now, when I
just taking it in
on the desk and look at it, it seems to have a back, even though I can't directly see the back. How is it that it seems to have this three-dimensional extension? We experience something as three-dimensional when the brain makes predictions about what would happen if I were to interact with it. If I picked the mug up and rotated it, I would see the back. And in some sense, my brain knows this, so it can make predictions about seeing the back of the mug if I made this action.
Professor Seth's analysis of the brain's role in constructing reality is exquisitely argued, but not uncontroversial. The great philosophers Plato, Descartes, Hume, Kant had differing views on the link between perception and reality. But what's perhaps not so controversial is that we, the human observer, do make some contribution to the way the world is perceived. That reality is not experienced in the same way by all perceivers. In order to probe the nature of reality further, Professor Seth believes we need to consider the process of evolution.
The biologist Theodore Dobzhansky famously said nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution, and the same goes for our brains.
The evolution of our species has shaped the way our brains process information. And Professor Seth believes that we construct reality based on what is evolutionarily advantageous rather than what's true. And that makes a lot of sense because our survival depends on the ability to make rapid, accurate predictions about our environment. So the brain evolved to prioritize efficiency over accuracy.
It's not as if the more accurate our perception of reality would be in some totally objective way, the better. Very different species, from mosquitoes to mice to elephants, would have very different experiences of the same world. And for each species, the way they experience the world will be adaptive for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Seth's point is that our brains construct a reality tailored to us in order to help us survive. This takes us back to the shifters, because if evolution can shape the way we perceive the world, could we alter this perception through our own volition?
Depends on your possibilities. If it depends on if you're different species, you're gonna have different possibilities, so you'll render the world in a different way.
But then reality shifting is not just about bending perception. It's not a trick of the mind. It's about embracing the idea that multiple realities exist simultaneously, just waiting to be discovered.
That is possibilities.
Shifting isn't rocket science. We're actually shifting dozens of times in every moment that we're alive. Every breath we take is shifting. Every time we blink, we're shifting. Every time we complete an action, we open up another reality in which we didn't take that action.
This is a clip from one of Kristin's YouTube videos released in 2020 about reality shifting, which has garnered over 2 million views. In it, she introduces a core belief of the shifter community, that our reality is part of a vast, multiverse.
It's about developing the mind, being aware of new
Which
possibilities.
suggests that with the right techniques, individuals can consciously navigate between these alternate universes, each offering a different version of reality.
Think of a big magical tree.
Think of
Whose branches split each
a
time
film.
we face a situation
and different
with different
characters.
possibilities that we can choose.
Different
get our
characters
main
have different
reality
possibilities
because we keep
in their
following this
reality.
one path.
They don't just
But
have
that
one
doesn't
path.
erase the
Each one
existence
has
of
one
all
path,
the
but
other
then there's multiple
possibilities
paths
have
that make
ever
the
been.
one.
And that doesn't take away from the fact that they exist simultaneously to ours.
And because there are infinite realities, there are definitely some realities where you're playing Quidditch in Hogwarts or battling an entire droid army.
And Quidditch in Hogwarts,
I
that's
exist throughout the multiverse.
talking, using
It's
your
just
words.
me. In
You
different
spell.
forms, but it's
You learn to
still me.
spell before you said the
If
word.
you like Hollywood blockbusters, you might be familiar
And you
with this
cast it when
idea
you say
of
it.
the multiverse. It's a central feature of Marvel movies and comics, and it's a wonderfully flexible storytelling device that enables endless creative possibilities with superheroes straddling different dimensions. But while this concept may sound like a sci-fi dream, it's neither new nor fantastical. One of the earliest references to the idea of multiple universes comes from philosophers in ancient Greece. The atomists, led by Leucippus and Democritus,
They definitely
proposed that
made
the
some
cosmos
developments.
consists
I
of
think they did.
countless separate
I say they
worlds,
never, but they did.
suggesting the existence of an infinite number of universes. And since the early 20th century, the multiverse theory has been explored and developed by some of the most brilliant scientific minds in the world. In 1957, American physicist Hugh Everett was one of the first to formally propose this idea at Princeton University.
That is what's called the parallel world.
Ulf Danielsson is Professor of Theoretical Physics at the University of Uppsala in Sweden. Ulf studies the fundamental principles of the universe.
Hugh Everett came up with a proposal that several different world histories develop. So that means that you and me, we are existing in zillions of different copies where things went in a different way. And of course, it also leads to philosophical discussions about what is real and what is not. That's sort of one way of interpreting quantum mechanics.
Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation was met with resistance by scientists at the time, but the theory gained traction and is still advocated by some within the field of quantum mechanics.
It is part of quantum mechanics. That's what
There's currently
quantum
no
mechanics
conclusive
is.
evidence for Everett's multiverse theory, made up of layer upon layer
Different
of
variables
continuous
in layers.
realities. But what's certain is that quantum mechanics is, well, weird. It forces us to accept that reality may seem straightforward, maybe even mundane, but it is in fact mysterious, even paradoxical.
Quantum mechanics has in itself some challenges when it comes to interpretate what it actually tells you about the world. We really don't have localized objects. There is an inherent randomness in everything, since you cannot determine exactly where something is.
Quantum mechanics explores the behavior of tiny things, like electrons and quarks, and it keeps throwing up
A good sound you hear
counterintuitive
inside
results.
yourself.
We now know that subatomic particles, get this, exist not in one place, but in multiple places at the same time.
So when you
At
listen to
least
somebody
until
else
we look at
within
them.
you,
In the quantum realm, observation plays a crucial role in shaping what is real.
When a measurement is done and a choice is made,
And
it's
real,
only one
as I
possibility
say,
which is
what
selected.
does that mean?
So it's only when we observe.
Because everywhere you see the word RE, every word that begins with RE, you already did it
its
before.
final state.
Like before it was real,
It's a
it was
one-way
actual.
until we look at them,
You
then
see,
they
yeah, it
become
was an
something else
actual picture
entirely.
in the
I
mind.
find that
You get it?
completely
So,
mind-blowing, and it's a stunning
If you
rebuke to
redo,
those
you
who say
retie,
that
you
reality is
even if you
fixed or
rectangle, You know what I'm saying? You say, oh, that's the only word. How? Because a rectangle could have been a square, and it could have been the triangles that made the square. So it could have been triangles that even made the rectangle. So it was already done. Just show me something that RE, and it's not already done before.
The questions
It's weird.
it raises are still intriguing.
My current shifting practices, it's a lot more relaxed than it was in the beginning.
We're now in 2025, and I think it's fair to say that the reality shifting phenomenon has lost a bit of traction.
I still get videos about shifting. I do see in the
Because
comments,
shifting,
though,
as I said, is
there's
just
stuff
growing.
Like, okay, can we admit that this is
The
a
mind
joke? Can we please
is
admit
being
that
aware
this
of
is
different
not
phenomena.
Real?
So when you say shifting, it's not like
Whether reality shifting
as
is really
spooky as
about
you
moving
think.
between
But
parallel
it
universes,
sells to lots of
or the
audiences.
product of
Some people
self-induced
like it to
hypnosis.
sound spooky.
Today, Kristen has her feet.
Some people like it, you know, to be
Says she still
in
shifts, but
reality.
also focuses
But that is reality. It's got spin on it.
When I'm going through life and, for instance, something bad happens, there is the temptation sometimes to shift to those realities where everything
See?
is perfect and all
You put your mind in a
dainty.
different place,
But
so
I
you
think
still
I
at
need to
peace.
learn. Everything can't be all amazing and happy. I need to stay here and learn a lesson, probably.
Happy
Kristen's
that
ambition
exists
today
if you
is
say
to
it.
continue living seamlessly across multiple universes.
If you say it's good, then it was. If you say it was bad, then you'll have all the feelings that follow that. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't let that exist, it's just peace. There's no good and bad, it's
My
peace.
aspirations. I did learn how to manage people, and I did learn how to talk to people and be very diplomatic. I have used it in day-to-day life here, and it's been very beneficial, I must say. I actually ran for city councillor in my city
they
in the
talk
past by-election,
In that
and I
way.
will continue
Instead
using
of
the different realities that I
promoting
shift
you to change.
as my little guinea pigs, especially when I'm
Like,
perhaps
by
a little
promoting you
bit
directly,
nervous on pursuing
they'll
something.
talk like that.
Test it out there,
And the
see
ones
how it
that
goes,
understand,
come back
understand.
and do it right.
Permit me to be frank. I don't believe that we can travel to parallel realities, even assuming they exist, simply by putting in a bit of mental effort.
The way I explained.
I do wonder about the idea that some people can conjure deeply realistic daydreams through effort, self-hypnosis,
Lucid.
and careful scripting, as the psychologist Professor Soma believes too.
Lucid.
Quite a while ago, I used to play professional table tennis, and mind-altering techniques in sport are part and parcel of what it means to perform under pressure. There's a
Psychotherapy.
state of consciousness called the zone, or flow, where reality seems endlessly pliable, and where time itself seems to slow down. I've interviewed many top performers, from Cristiano Ronaldo to Martina Navratilova, who say that in this state of consciousness, everything becomes effortless,
Yeah.
as if it's
Einstein
unfolding on
spoke about
autopilot.
this.
Sadly,
So
I
did
attempt
Darwin.
this particular state of mind quite infrequently in my career.
He called it
But
transient
as with the shifting of people like
hyperfrontality.
Kristen, I think it does hint at what we might call the fluidity of subjective reality. That we can change how we apprehend the world, how it appears to us, in a perhaps not dissimilar way to how scientists believe that the quantum state of the universe changes with each observation. Reality might seem like the most straightforward, banal fact of life. What I hope this episode hints at is that it is inherently mysterious, and this perhaps offers a different way to think about ourselves and our place in the universe. You might even call it, if you'll forgive the phrase, a reality shift.
We already spoke about that.